Yeah, no, I don't know. He did. John McCain got a little bit of medical attention, and I know the story there. John was ejected over the lake and was badly injured. They captured him, and they would interrogate you, and if you were passing out, they would just let you die. And then we thought for a long time there might be an amputee camp. If you lost a leg or something, an injection, they just died. Bill Mesker was left to die for 3 days in a ditch, and he was too strong to die. So they finally picked him up, and but anyway, John McCain was passing in and out, and he'd finally passed out, I guess, and they thought for real, so they put a sheet over him, and all of a sudden they came over and ripped the sheet off. They said, "Are you Admiral McCain's son?" And so they gave him enough medical attention to keep him alive. And he was kind of a prince. Anybody that had some notoriety or in the family, they thought that could be useful as a bargaining chip or something. So there were a few cases like that. Yes, sir. What are you in the service?
I am. I'm on temporary duty up here at Redstone. I'm stationed out of Fort Rucker, Major Jared Coling, Army type. And I just went through.
Thanks for your service. Thank everybody here. But
Thank you.
it seemed like your haircut was a little different than most of us.
I'm a Chinook driver by trade, so I get to go a little bit longer.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate your service.
But I just went through the SEER course
Okay.
2 years ago when I came back to Fort Rucker. And so they do still teach the TAP code. And they admit freely that the Air Force was leaps and bounds ahead of the Army for the survival training at least. And I've kind of modeled the course after the Air Forces. And it's the best training I never want to do again. And you know, ours is only a month long, so I can't imagine.
Yeah, but they make it pretty realistic, I think.
As far as I know, but
Yeah.
You would know better than I. But you mentioned, you know, being in the two-seater when you and Harry ejected. How long, since your legs were broken, how long passed before you knew that he was A, alive, and B, also located at Hanoi?
That night, they captured us, and by nighttime, they brought us to a little hut in the mountain, built on stilts. It wasn't so little, it was from here that wall long, and maybe just about it's a pretty good sized building for the mountains. And the men were in the inside, and the women and children on the outside. They had tiki torches, you know, bamboo, tied away. That was the fire. That was the light in that cabin. And I got there, and I looked down, and they kind of threw me in there. I really couldn't walk. And I saw Harry, spread eagle strapped down. The bamboo was floors about these big, you know. And they pretty soon I was next to him, strapped down, and we both got our shorts on yet, kind of torn. And so I saw Harry then, and I will never forget, and nor will ever be less than 100% praiseworthy of Harry Johnson. The word was that some of the prisoners were executed when they were captured. Understandably, I guess, dropping bomb. But anyway, the odds were 50-50. People thought, that was word amongst the squad, that if you're captured, you'll be executed. So we were there, and they tied us down, and it was surreal. The men were, remember how Orientals can honker? They can squat down and sit on their skeletons for hours. And these seemed like middle-aged to older men, and many of them were smoking opium pipes. And these flickering lights going on in there. And I said to Harry, Harry, odds are I will be executed tonight. And they hit me a couple times, and they hit Harry when he said, Leo, they will or they won't, no sense worrying about it. Now that sounds pretty easy to say, but that was so, so awarding. So I was so thankful to hear good old common sense Harry. That was a wonderful statement. So anyway, I don't know if I answered your question. I went to start off somewhere.
That was, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We doing okay, folk?
Anybody try to escape by the way?
A few people did. The worst case was we were in a place called Zoo. There was a zoo, and then they put us in an annex. Just go through the door, and there was they had several. And anyway, Ed Ramezi and John Ramsey, or John, jeez, Ed Ramezi, John Ramsey. They escaped. They went through the roof. They prepared some, and they made it to the wall of the prison. They made it to the prison. They made it to the Red River. They were floating down the river. They're going to get to the Gulf of Tonkin and get picked up. And morning came, and there were no reeds, no nothing, and they were captured. Brought them back. John Ramezi survived. Ed Adbury. They were both tortured. Ed Adbury, it took about a week to torture him to death. And during that time, they went to every cell. If you were solitary, you were the ranking guy. We were solitary cells or 2 or 3. If there's 2 or 3 in a cell, they took the ranking guy in that cell and they tortured them unmercifully. Fire, with hoses and blood sprayed on a wall. It was just a very brutal time. And so it put kind of a crimp in it. But we had a hierarchy, and people say, I think I can make it, I think I can escape. We looked a lot different than they did. The odds of making it were so slim, and then after that, that even diminished the odds of making it. And that was the last real escape attempt. So in North Vietnam, no one escaped and had been captured and put in the system. There were 2 or 3 other tries. Yeah. Sir?
Do you have any contact, or do you see any of your fellow prisoners now?
We do. We have an annual POW union. We used to talk about war story stuff. Now we talk about health. But the people you lived with in a tiny little cell, if you were more than one in a solitary cell, those are the ones you really got close to. People, there were times we took torture for each other, thinking the other guy wasn't going to survive another day or night of torture. So you were close. The dumbest thing I've ever said to this is the dumbest thing I've ever said to my wife. There was one just about close to my wife. I came, I said, Gailey, that's right. And she said, we've been married. Next year will be 60 years. We were married 15-some years before it shut down. It worked out well. We stayed married all that time. And I said, Gailey, I know Jack Bomar better than I'll ever know you. That's dumb. And the other thing, just about as bad as I said something about, Gailey, you don't cook rice like they did in prison. And the third dumbest thing is, when I got home, Gailey and I decided we'd tell each other everything, as much detail, the good, the bad, everything in between, as we could. When I would tell about the day I was captured, she would talk about she was teaching school at Nellis Air Force Base, or North Las Vegas, and that's where I went from Nellis. And she was the only military teacher in that school. And the day after I was shot down, the time zone and all, she saw an Air Force blue staff car drive up with a chaplain and another guy come to school. She knew it was going to be a bad day. But so we went through that. I got to the communication system. I explained the tap code and so on. And I said, it'd be nice if you learned the tap code. She says, I got it. You throw away K, you line them up 5, tap, roll, and call. I said, you got it, but you can't use it. Practice it. She said, well, I said, it'd just be kind of quiet. It'd be fun to know. My thought was, I told her, I said, well, some night we're out having dinner with somebody else and we'll say something, we can tap in the glass or something. We'll have our own secret little communication. My real thought was, and I really believed this, I thought this could turn into something big. I thought, I'm in bed at night, she's this cute little 41-year-old now instead of 35, and I could just roll over and I could, wherever my hand touched her cute little body, I would tap out some sensuous little message. And I tried that, and I've never been more wrong about anything. That was really dumb. Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, when I went over to Vietnam in '67, before we went over, they prepared us, and they showed us this film, and it showed people being mutilated and tortured and all that. And at the end of the film, they told us, they said, we order you not to surrender. You will not be taken alive. And just the fact that we saw that, when I got over there in our unit, none of us ever considered being taken alive. And there were times where we had to make that decision. Are we going to fight it out or give up? And I remember one night we had our magazines out on the ground and said, come get us. You're not taking us alive. But there was never any consideration of giving up. It was going to do or die. And I contributed to that training that they gave us. And I'm so glad that they did, because I just can't imagine being in that place like that for 5 or 6 years like that, just, did that ever cross your mind?
It did, and some people did fight it out, some didn't. I had a 38 with me, and it had 5 rounds of tracer in it, because you could shoot up through the canopy of the jungle. So if a rescue airplane came in, you could get that. And I had one real round in it. And that crossed my mind, and some people did commit, some shot themselves, some did not. And I can't say which side is right or wrong, but I understand it.
Yeah. Well,
I understand it. Sir?
Well, you had told me that you knew Colonel Swindle when he retired, or after he was at Albany, Georgia, when I was there. He had serious problems with his legs. Can you tell me how he's doing now?
Yeah, he's doing pretty well.
Good.
He's a grandpa of triplets, enjoying life. He's got a wife Angie, and he's a neat guy. We're good friends, and he's tough. Bud Day is dying down around Destin, Florida. He's Medal of Honor recipient from prison. He and Jim Sotney are the two. And Orson went down about a month ago, and it's been a couple days, and they talked about, and Orson spent a lot of